Welcome to the Unlock Your Life podcast. I'm your host, Lori Harris. And today we're talking about, again, our ideas and the ideas that we inherit. Many high achievers are living lives that are not actually ones that they have chosen. We sometimes get into the habit of our conditioning, inherited definitions of success, our unconscious ambitions somehow get pushed to the background, and we get involved in some kind of achievement scripts. And we are running a very different script than the one that would actually give us life, that would make us very happy. So we start to, or ideally, we could consider questioning, did I consciously decide and choose this life? Or is it just something that I've become accustomed to doing, accustomed to living, something that I've become accustomed to being good at, but not necessarily something that I love? We have this inherited ambition. It can come from cultural scripts or family conditioning, identity, performance, and success models that come from a place that we are no longer conscious of. They're so deeply ingrained in us that it's like being that fish that's thinking about and talking about water, but not actually aware of what the water is. Now, I love hosting people in containers that help us reconsider the lives that we're living and what is actually inherited versus a life that we actually want. We do this at our retreats, at our salons, in our online conversation groups. And sometimes we have to become aware of our own desire and tap back into what we actually want. So we want to get into, what do I want? We want to disrupt any habit forms that are not based in true desire, not actually tapped into our own longing, that are dishonest and not addressing whatever internal conflicts that we might be experiencing. The question is, what happens when our desires are not in alignment with the life that we're actually living, a life that we have built? We all have internal conversations. We are all kind of negotiating with life, and whether or not we allow our desires to bubble to the surface or keep them hidden from everyone, including ourselves. So when we do that, it impacts our relationships, it impacts our identity with self, and causes destabilization. And it can cause a little bit of grief because when you start to allow yourself to really learn and listen to what's going on, then a natural occurrence of disconnection from old identities, from old security blankets starts to occur. And it can threaten our relationship to our marriages, our careers, the systems that we have built and have come to rely on and to believe are true, in the roles that we have stepped into. Some of us have the habit of being the pleaser. And when we start to really interrogate, do I want to do the things that I've been engaged in doing? Then we can feel destabilized because if we've always been the pleaser and we realize it's not in alignment with a life that actually serves you, a life that is nourishing and responsive to your own needs, because we only get this one moment, we only get this one life, and we have to be responsive to ourselves first and then everything else can come second. That's a very difficult realization to come to when you've spent your life being a pleaser. So we want to allow ourselves to find out what it is that we really, really want. When we have been engaged in just doing what looks good, it can be kind of okay. But there comes a time when you realize that you have more days behind you than you have ahead of you. And if that's true, are you really engaged in a life that you actually love? There's a difference between simply functioning and performing and then leading, self leadership, leading your own life and carrying the responsibility for your own joy and happiness. Then you can stop questioning your own competence for being a person and just in this world. So the question is, what do you really want? Not what keeps everybody else quiet, not what keeps everyone else comfortable, not what everyone else expects or fits into an identity that you've spent years building and identifying with. But what is your truth? What do you really want? One of the real tragedies of high achievement is people become attached to an identity, and other people start to see you as just that one thing. I had a relative who got a lot of notoriety during the pandemic for creating and buying and starting a retail business. And over time, it became like a ball and chain. Instead of this beautiful butterfly like thing that made her happy, it became really oppressive. People wanted to interview her only about the retail store. People wanted to engage with her only about the retail store. People introduced her as the creator and owner of the retail store. And she was thinking to herself, there's so much more than just that. There's so much more to me than just this one thing that I've created. I'm so much more interesting than this. There's so much more I want to do. And doing retail is hard because the way it works is you establish your hours and then you go and you open up the shop and you got to sit there and be there whether or not people are walking through the door, because you never know when they're going to walk through the door. And there could be many days and many hours when no one walks through the door. And it can feel kind of boring or like a waste of time, but it's expected. And that's part of building a new thing. And so when she started to realize this, it was hard because she did get a lot of accolades for having built this thing and created this thing and fundraised and got support for this beautiful business. And building a business is no small thing. The first thing you have to do after you have the idea is capitalize your idea. And there are a few ways to do it. There's bootstrapping, fundraising from yourself, where you just put together all the resources you can do, including credit cards and debt, or you can go to friends and family, or nowadays you could do a Kickstarter, which again is an extension of friends and family, or you can go even bigger with what we now know as venture capital. But to start a business starts first with capitalizing the idea. And once you put yourself out there, then that becomes so closely identified with who you are that you can forget that the business is not you and you are not the business. Your identity becomes so closely intertwined that you start to see yourself as the thing. And if the thing fails, then you have failed. If the thing fails, then you are a failure. And that's hard. So you ask yourself, why am I here? Why does this thing that to other people feels and looks so successful to them feel so heavy and burdensome to me? Am I actually absent from my own life? Am I postponing the things that I deeply want? When we start a new thing, we have to begin as we want to go on. But it's also great to have an idea. How would you love for it to end? How will you exit from this thing that you've created? Is the thing so closely tied to you that when you stop wanting to do it, you want to shut it down? Or will it live on with as you, as the founder, that you've created something that has legs that can exist outside of you? It's hard to override these feelings of identity. We become so closely identified with the thing that we've built that we just double down. We work hard. We stay productive. We beat ourselves up with gratitude. Be grateful and keep going. But sometimes before we know how to change our life, we realize we need to change our life and we're really clear about what needs to go. And we have to start thinking of our desires as important data, something that lets us know the life that we have built is no longer the life that we want to live. We have to allow ourselves to have that information and stop negotiating and fighting for our own limited beliefs and limited box that we found ourselves fighting to get out of. So we are capable of far more than we give ourselves credit for. We are capable of building beyond what we've been known for. And we can reconnect with that one thing that's known as our true self. So if you've been feeling like you're really good at achieving, producing, leading, and solving problems and caring for others, I'm going to invite you to consider what would it look like if you stepped into congruent and stopped doing, stop being so exhausted. Not because the life you've built is bad, but the truth is the life you've built is not what you want anymore. And knowing that your desire has arrived with discomfort, restlessness, irritation, resentment, numbness, exhaustion, and now you no longer feel alive. That can feel really complicated. And it can seem like doing something different is irresponsible and unfamiliar, which makes it seem like you are trying to do something you're not capable of doing. You're not strong enough. You're, in fact, too weak to go in a different direction. So you tell yourself stuff like, don't be selfish. Don't be irresponsible. Don't be ungrateful. And don't disrupt the boat. And we don't allow ourselves to receive the information that our body is trying to tell us. Our body knows far more than we give it credit for, and knows first before we acknowledge it in our mind. What if what your body's trying to tell you is your own wisdom? What if what your body's trying to tell you is your own truth? I have had the experience of going for the benefit of an entity other than myself so many times. I've literally broken bones and not attended to them in order to make sure everyone else around me was taken care of first. I have experienced great actual hemorrhage rather than getting the medical treatment that I needed. And now I have the ability to step outside of that and see it happening again with the family member, someone who's just starting her very new and young career, but she has a health challenge. And rather than dealing with her health challenge, she's concerned about using paid medical leave that she's earned because she's more concerned about what her supervisor will think and say about her. And so she's not attending to her health. And it's easier for me to see this now that I'm stepped out of working for someone else. And I can see what it's doing to this family member. And it's painful because our corporate and employment lives have to catch up with the needs of the workers that keep these machines going. These machines can't be run on the energy of our bodies because we keep feeding into an image of instability and scarcity that's not the truth. You have to let ourselves know that the piece I've been moving in doesn't work, that it's hurting my relationships and it's hurting me. It is creating an image of success that is unsustainable. And the life that I'm building just feels wrong. I know that I can't keep going like this. And the more we suppress, the further we get away from clarity, the further we get away from being able to attend to this body temple. Incongruence is expensive. It's expensive for us. It's expensive for our bodies. And quite frankly, it's expensive for the corporate bottom line. You would think that we would have learned after having gone through a global pandemic. But 6 years out, it doesn't seem like we have. I remember getting trained and being told by my immediate supervisor, if you are sick, just come in, take care of the work that you have, and then go home. That was the culture. That first you come in and take care of the needs here, and then you can attend to your own physical needs. And so what it did was create a culture where people were accustomed to not attending to themselves and accustomed to infecting the workplace, infecting the client base, and taking that out into not only the immediate office, but into the greater building that we were. And after a global pandemic, you would think that we would know there is value in isolating actual disease. But it seems like we went right back to what we did before. So check in with yourself. Is the life you're living in alignment with your values, your desires, your own emotional reality? dare I say, is the life you're living in alignment with your vision? Because we want real success, true success. And true success feels right for you. And it's not getting a better planner, a better routine. It's not some secret out there. It is being clear about honoring your body temple. You don't have to burn down your whole life every time you feel some discomfort, but you do have to tell yourself the truth. You do have to be willing to stop lying to yourself. You do have to be willing to say, ouch, when something hurts, when it matters, and cut off the things instead. There's a concept in cross examination. When the horse dies, get off, because sometimes you just hammer something too far and you go too far. So you have to keep your eye on what is the goal, because your desire is not the enemy of responsibility. It is the pathway, the gateway to being truly alive. And alive is in this moment, at this time, on this date. So think of your desire as data and honor your desire. Because if you don't, the consequence is resentment and numbness and burnout and distance from all the things that really matter to you. So I ask you, what have you been unwilling to admit? What are you not telling yourself the truth about? What have you been postponing? And the better question is, okay, truthfully, what would you love? Because 5 years from now is not the time. Not when everything calms down, not when you stop having to pay child support, or when he starts finally paying child support or alimony, not when everyone else is finally okay. Because this perfect vision, it never comes. The only moment you have is this moment. Your freedom is not some destination, it's the choices you're making in this moment, and only this moment. This is the way to live. When I have what I call a salon or my retreats, we are exploring a deeper reality for ourselves. We're not escaping from our lives, but we're re entering it with honesty, congruity, intentionality, and a feeling of vitality, true aliveness. It's where we step outside of all of the noise that's going around us and reconnect with our vision, our desire, our truth, and remind ourselves of this life I am truly, truly wanting. We do all of this at Discovering Black Walden. DiscoveringBlackWalden.com is where I talk about our retreat. It's America 250. And this is the time for us to reconnect with our relationship with ourselves and with the place that we call home. What does it mean to stand for freedom? What does it mean to stand inside your own beautiful dream and vision? What does it mean to call for help? What does it mean to be an ally? What does it mean to be honest and live a truly vision-driven life? Your truth is going to arrive before you know how to get there, before the strategy and the life you want begins the moment you stop putting it off and you start letting yourself know what's true. It's not a destination, as a call to action to be her Now, what does she want? What does the life that you really want call for you to do? I'd love for you to check out what it would be like to go on a spiritual journey, a pilgrimage at discoveringblackWalton.com. That's your call to action today. Go to the website and check it out. It's discoveringblackWalton.com. And until then, I invite you, be her now. You've got but one life to live, and it's your time to shine. You are ready for the next step. I can't wait to see you next time. Take care.